Good morning. We have been looking at the doctrine of Sola Scriptura. We noticed that the early church and the theologians affirmed it. So why did it need then to be reformed? Why did we have to go back to it? Well, the reason is that through the medieval period, the Bible got funneled down largely to Latin. The resources of the church went into the hands of the priests and the prelates. Control of the church went into their hands, and therefore the dissemination of doctrine became filtered through the church because, importantly, church tradition began to be seen not just parallel, but really Scripture was filtered through church tradition. Okay? Now that's important to note. Because, and I want to give you a quote from Innocent III. And this is a very significant issue because Innocent III at the Fourth Lateran Council in 1215 AD is really where things just took a hard turn. They were already heading that direction in some ways due to the Crusades and due to certain political hypocrisies that were happening in the church and so forth. But Innocent III cemented a theological trajectory. And I want to give you a quote and then share with you three things that set the table for the Reformation, specifically regarding the doctrine of Sola Scriptura. Here's the quote. "The successor of Peter is the vicar of Christ. He has been established as a mediator between God and man." So the Pope is established as a mediator between God and man, he's saying. "Below God, but beyond man, less than God, but more than man, who shall judge all and be judged by no one." In other words, he's the creme de la creme of humanity. He is the be-all, end-all of humanity, and he acts as a kind of liaison to God. Now that set the table, given the power of the Pope, coupled with the pollution that took place due to that authority structure, all kinds of things to do with the languages and so forth being funneled down to Latin. Three things that I think contributed to the doctrine of Sola Scriptura being recaptured. Here's the first one: the growing abuse of authority. That's the first. So the church pressed down on its parishioners in a way that you wielded authority and it became absolutely corrupt. Secondly, the emergence of need to emphasize the priesthood of believers. Because if you can only go to God now and it's through the priests and then by extension, or ultimately through this one greater than man, the Pope, well, that's a problem. And then third, the need for Scripture to be brought into the vernacular. It's funneled down to Latin, and they wanted to be liberated to read it in their own tongue. Hence a guy like Tyndale saying, hey, listen, we want to get back to where the plowboy knows more of the Scripture than the priest. And so these three things, the abuse of authority, the emphasis of the need to get to the priesthood of believers where you're not mediating, going to God through a man, and the need for Scripture for people to be able to read it in their own language. Those three things set the table for Sola Scriptura. We'll dig into the doctrine and the meaning of it in days ahead. May the Lord bless you today.